Welcome to Season 4 of The Armchair Athletes on CMRU.ca.
We're here to talk to 4 major American sports leagues. Your favorite sports show on CMRU.ca.
With Clayton.
Give me a break. You guys have proven nothing.
Taylor.
Like, if you ever want to get rid of him, you're never going to get anything for him.
Terrell.
Every team plays at that stadium. The Orioles have to hit to the same wall, too.
And Will.
Every week, there's a new report that's like, Miami is the top suitor for Damian Lillard.
Hello, everyone. Today, I have the honor of getting to interview someone who is as synonymous with the Stanley Cup as anyone in the hockey world. He is the curator of the Hockey Hall of Fame and is known as the keeper of the Stanley Cup, Phil Pritchard. Phil, how are you doing today?
Clayton, I'm doing great. Thanks for having us on the show, and we look forward to chatting hockey and obviously the Stanley Cup.
So I guess to start off, the question that I'm sure everybody wants to know is, how did you become the keeper of the Stanley Cup?
Well, as you said off the top there, my title is the Vice President and Curator at the Hockey Hall of Fame, but everyone nicknames me as the Keeper of the Cup because I've been traveling with it for, this is year 37 now, 1988 I started. And I grew up playing hockey just like a lot of kids in Canada did. And I dreamed of winning the Stanley Cup one day and playing in the NHL. That obviously didn't happen. So early on, I figured that out, and I went into the behind the scenes part of things. And I attended Durham College in Oshawa, Ontario, which had a great, and still has a great sports administration program. And it was a co-op internship thing, and it kind of went from there. And here I am. I would love to say I applied for a job in the paper or something like that, or on LinkedIn or anything, but it didn't happen that way. It was a bit different. But I'm proud to say I volunteered and did co-op and internship, and to me, I really believe and firmly believe that's a way to go to get into any organization, whatever you're doing, whether it's sports, whatever it is. Show them what you can do, volunteer, help them out, do whatever, and you never know who you meet along the way.
And you mentioned that you've had this job since 1988. What was that first summer like traveling around with the Stanley Cup, and what was it like the first time that you presented it out on the ice?
Well, it's funny because a lot in hockey has evolved over time, and that position has evolved as well. So the first summer I actually took the cup to somebody was 1989. It was the Calgary Flames won the cup. Cullen Patterson was the very first player I did. He lived just in North Toronto and had come to me and, introduced himself and said, I'm a Stanley Cup winner. I'd love to have the cup at my house. And I said, Cullen, we can figure that out. So it was just basically a one-on-one conversation with me and Cullen, and then went from there. Flash forward ahead a couple of years, the Cup started traveling more, and then by 1994, 95, we had it approved by the league, the board, Commissioner Bettman, the trustees of the Cup, that every person on the team could get a chance to have a day with it. 1995 comes, and the New Jersey Devils win the Stanley Cup, and everyone on that team got a chance to take it home. And it kind of became an instant tradition as soon as that happened. Prior to that, a bunch of guys got it, and then before that, a bunch of guys, and going back to Cullen Patterson and that. And even before that, Gretzky had it, brought it home, and things like that. So it evolved into this 1995 where everyone got it. And from there on, it's been one of the coolest traditions in sport.
It certainly has, and one of the artifacts that people associate with that tradition is the white gloves that you wear when you are presenting it. How did that tradition begin?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Clayton, because in all museums or Hall of Fames, the curatorial staff wears white gloves. And the reason we wear that is because we all have oils on our fingerprints, and we don't want to damage the artifact. Whether it's a piece of art, whether it's a rock from a rock museum, whether it's skates, what have you, whatever the museum has, all the curatorial staff wore gloves. We brought them from behind the scenes to into the forefront. When we had that opportunity to travel with the cup, we wanted to pay it the respect that it deserves preserve its tradition, preserve the aura of it. So we handle it with white gloves. And another thing that kind of became an instant tradition, it's kind of scary now, though, I guess, in a way, Clayton, because everybody thinks I should have white gloves on all the time. And obviously I don't. It's winter here, so I have snow gloves on now. So
Yeah, I was going to ask as well. So during the season, the Stanley Cup travels to different events all over the world. What does your schedule look like during the season, and how often are you traveling?
well, it's amazing during the season what the National Hockey League and the Stanley Cup does, because obviously there's the league partners and that, and there's events going on with the member clubs and that, but it also does a lot of charity events on raising awareness or raising funds where possible for underprivileged athletes, for underprivileged kids. We're doing an event for the LA fires coming up at the end of February. So there's lots of things that's going on. I'm on the road probably close to 175 to 200 days a year. All of them unique in every way, whether it's a player's day with a cup in the summer, or whether it's a charity event, or whether it's a partner event. Each one of them brings smiles and a lot of memories, and sharing stories with guests that are there are always amazing.
And what's it like for you traveling with the Stanley Cup? How is it like when you're going through the airports with it?
Well, what's amazing about it is, Clayton, and we're fortunate here in Canada and North America that hockey is one of the major four sports, so people are aware of it and that. So when we do check in at an airport, we work obviously with security and that as well, so they know we're coming. But when you actually check in and they ask you how much luggage you have, and you say, I have two pieces, my personal luggage and this big piece here, it obviously raises a lot of eyebrows and that, but it makes a lot of people smile, and a lot of photos, and the cell phones are out, photos are being taken, social media news is happening, and away we go. Thankfully, at airports and airlines, there's a lot of hockey fans there. So fingers crossed. You can't see my fingers are crossed, but the plane takes off, the cup's with it, and away we go.
And I wanted to know as well, how many places have you been to with the Stanley Cup, and what have been some of your favorite places or the most unique places that you've been with it?
So we've traveled to 31 countries with the Cup now. And just to give you an idea, hockey's played in over 95 countries around the world now. It's no longer just a northern sport. It can be played anywhere that they can make ice, which is pretty well everywhere these days. But we've traveled to 31 countries. That's 31 different cultures. That's 31 different types of food and drink and stuff. So it's amazing, although we're out there promoting hockey and the preservation of the Stanley Cup, you get to see countries, you get to see different cultures, you get to see the different foods of the world and things like that. And to me, that's what makes it amazing. Every time you go to a different area and it's a different culture, or there's a different food or different drink or whatever, that's the exciting part for me. And I don't think that'll ever go away, because our world is a great world out there. It seems to get smaller all the time because of airlines. So who knows, that 31 number might get to 50 in a couple of years.
And I want to ask you about the Hockey Hall of Fame as well. What are some of your favorite artifacts or exhibits in the hall?
Wow, great question, Clayton. We've got about 80,000 square feet now of hockey history on display at the Hockey Hall of Fame. To me, I love the history of the game. I love the early equipment on how that has evolved over the years because of technology and that. I love the silver and all the trophies. The NHL arguably has the best trophies in the world, and all of them are silver and everything. So to have them in the Great Hall, it's very special in that. But I think what makes it great is we cover all leagues, all levels worldwide. And wherever the guest is from, they can find something. You know, if they're from Iceland, we have an Iceland national jersey, or if they're from Hong Kong, we've got jerseys from the Hong Kong Railway League, anywhere across Canada, US, and that. There's something for everyone, but I think at most things, people will get educated by our displays because we're trying to show them not only the current stars, but where they've come from, where hockey's heading, the national teams, the local teams, the minor hockey teams, and that. So there's really something for everybody.
I've taken a trip there. It's an absolutely wonderful museum. I wanted to talk about and go back to 2015. Chicago Blackhawks had won their third Stanley Cup in 6 seasons, and the presentation was a bit delayed out on the ice. Can you tell me the story behind that and what had happened that delayed the presentation?
Yeah, I mean, there was a storm in Chicago that night. Actually, it was almost tornado-like. So, which means Mother Nature is a hockey fan because she wanted to be part of it in that. But what I found amazing is for those watching it in the arena, they didn't really see anything behind the scenes. They didn't know anything was delayed or that. They thought because a home team won it, the celebration prior to the Stanley Cup was extra special because they actually had more time to celebrate with family and friends before the Stanley Cup came out. We were trying to drive through roads that were washed out and things like that. Fortunately, it all worked out in the end. And I remember walking it out on the ice, and the Blackhawks, like you said, are winning it the third time in 6 years. But they said for this one, it was extra special. They didn't think they had the team to do it until they got into the third and fourth round. Then they realized how good a team that was. So to spend the summer with those guys, it was pretty special.
When a team wins, or a player as well wins the Stanley Cup multiple times like the Blackhawks did, does it make your job easier during the summer? Is it easier to look after the Stanley Cup because the players know the rules behind what they can and can't do with it?
I mean, that's a great question because in the past little while, I mean, the Penguins won it back-to-back years, Tampa won it back-to-back years, and Chicago, obviously 3 times in 6 years, and the Kings won it twice in 3 years. But what you see with those guys is obviously you see them growing up too. So maybe the first year they win it, they're single and they have a girlfriend. By the third time they win it, they're married and have kids. So the party is a bit different. It changes a bit. So the dynamic is different in that. But ultimately, they're a Stanley Cup champion no matter whether they're a second-year guy or a veteran. They just celebrate a bit different. The family grows, and I think that's what really makes it special. It's something memorable for them, whether it's the first, second, third, whatever it might be time.
And someone who was really excited to win the Stanley Cup, Alexander Ovechkin, and was very memorable when the Washington Capitals won it in 2018 and the summer of Ovi that followed after it as well. What are some stories that you have from Ovechkin and the Capitals that summer?
Well, that whole playoff run was pretty amazing because they played a first-year team, the Vegas Golden Knights, in the Stanley Cup final. Nobody expected Vegas to go to the Stanley Cup final. And then to win the Stanley Cup in Vegas, of all cities where everybody from around the world visits, it was pretty neat to see the Washington Capitals win, who had a very multicultural team. They had players from all over the world on the team as well. But I think for Washington, the community really bonded together because of Alex and the Capitals, and that they tried to get to as many places as possible within the city and the suburbs, not only just DC, but Richmond and Virginia and all around there. I think what the players loved about it was DC, it was the capital of the USA. Obviously, that city has had a lot of parades before, so they knew exactly how the parade was going to work. And for the players, talking to them after the parade, they loved it. It was amazing going down Constitution Avenue and all those streets and that. But the widths of the streets in Washington are different than other cities because they have the width. So the parade looked extra special in that, and it was great. And you know what? For all these teams that win in the summer, unfortunately, it has to come to an end because the next season starts, but that just starts another chapter in the life of the Stanley Cup.
It certainly does. Other than Ovechkin, was there any players or teams that won the Stanley Cup as well that you were really happy for?
Well, I mean, for everybody, I think we are happy for, because some guys, like we say, are first-time winners. Some are two-time winners. Pat Maroon won it 3 consecutive years in a row with St. Louis and twice with Tampa. So he was excited all 3 times, just like you would think he was. I remember the Dallas Stars won in 1999. That was kind of a unique win. I don't think people were expecting the Stars to win, but their summer was unbelievable because Dallas was relatively new to hockey at the time, and we were going to unique places, to horseback riding shows and all sorts of things. But it really brought out the spirit of the sport, and the players showed their excitement everywhere they can. And you look at the state of Texas now, it's one state in America that hockey is just booming. And you got to thank the Stars winning that cup back in '99.
It certainly is. And another place in the South that hockey's booming in as well, Tampa Bay, who went back-to-back in 2020 and 2021. There was unique circumstances, though, in 2020 with the NHL playoffs being held in the bubble. How much time did you spend in the bubble that year, and what did your job kind of look like in the bubble?
Well, I mean, the bubble went for 2 months, actually. It was split between Toronto and Edmonton. My office was in the bubble in Toronto, so I was on a different tier than some of the players. I could go home at night, every night in Toronto. When I got to Edmonton, and I spent a month in the bubble in Edmonton, obviously, once you were there, you couldn't leave the bubble. So it was either I was in the hotel or I was in the arena. There was nowhere to go. You couldn't go anywhere else. There was a gated walkway that kind of went from the hotel area to the arena, but that was all you could go. But I remember each game watching it, and there'd be only maybe 100 people in the rink, people that were working at that. What amazed me more than anything was just the sounds of the skates and the sounds of the guys yelling, and that you could hear the ref talking to the players and the whistles. And it's the sounds of the games that really stood out for me. I mean, for Tampa winning, they were thrilled to win it. For the other 23 teams that were in that bubble, it was probably kind of tough to go home with empty-handed, to be away from their family and that for a long time. But for the Lightning, I remember flying back from Edmonton to Tampa the next day, and the people in Tampa were so thrilled. Everyone was had the mouth coverings on and everything and that, but the city was so excited. And then to win it again the next year, kind of like a similar situation, but it altered a bit. It was extra special for the fans because they actually got to see the celebration this time.
How much different was it that next summer and the summer in 2021 traveling with the Stanley Cup with the circumstances at the time?
Well, amazing part, because in COVID in different provinces in Canada and in states, with the different states, they all had different rules and regulations. So we had to follow those pretty adamant, and in Europe as well. They had different rules and regulations than Canada or US also. So that was the main thing. I mean, it was great to win the cup, but for everybody, from what we knew at the time, we wanted to make sure everyone was safe. And I think the National Hockey League and the doctors and that did a great job of doing that. I remember the training staff of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They worked every day to make sure everyone was good and that. And COVID tests, I think I did 145 COVID tests or something, and during that time, and every one of them was negative. So
well, that's a good.
Yeah, that was a good thing, I guess. But coming out of it all, I mean, it was unfortunate for some people who got really sick and that, and the people that lost their lives. That's the thing that really sticks out to me. I mean, it was great to have a Stanley Cup champion, and the players are thrilled, but everybody knows somebody that had an issue or something, and those are the ones you really feel for.
Certainly. And I wanted to ask you as well, you know that Stanley Cup and its history probably better than anyone. What are some cool fun facts that you know about the Cup that maybe some other people wouldn't?
A couple of things that are kind of cool. Clayton is, although it's called the Stanley Cup, nowhere on the trophy does it say Stanley Cup. It's known as the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup is what it's called. And if you can see that on the top of the bowl itself, everyone calls it the Stanley Cup. I guess similar to that is Super Bowl, and it's really the Lombardi Trophy, but people call it the Super Bowl. It's the same thing with the Stanley Cup. It holds 16 large beers in the top of it as well. Probably not everyone knows that. That's well over 200 ounces. So that's a lot of liquid that's in there. And I use the example beer, but you go to a lot of guys' places and they have it full of chocolate milk or Jello or what have you, homemade soup and stuff. That's a lot of liquid in that bowl. And it's really neat to see all of that. And that goes back to the culture and where we might be in the foods and the different drinks and that. But at all times, they're all in a celebratory mood, and they're not there to damage it or anything. They're there to celebrate a win.
And you go to all these parties, I'm sure. And have you ever ate out of the Stanley Cup or drank out of it?
I've never ate out of it. I did drink out of it in 1997, the first time the Cup visited Russia. It was a historic moment in Russia. I didn't think then, and I still don't think now, that I deserve to drink out of it. I think you have to win it. I did it as a favor to Igor Larionov and Slava Fetisov because, as they said it, if I didn't bring it there, it would never have got there. So I was basically part of this historic moment, which I think is a lot of BS, but whatever. But we did drink vodka out of it. And I remember doing it vividly. And it was such a cool feeling. But again, like I said, I don't think I deserved that opportunity to do that. I did it out of respect to the Russians and to what they've done to come over to the National Hockey League and immediately take it back to their fans and their family and that. But I've never done it since.
Okay, that's a great story. Stanley Cups also appeared in TV shows and movies. What's your experiences with the Stanley Cup been like on production sets?
Well, what's amazing about it is, and obviously everyone knows it's an inanimate object. It's not human. But it has a personality. And when we go on sets or if we're doing commercial ads or photo shoots or that, people are thrilled with it. Like it's there. It's 132 plus years old. It's 37 pounds. It's 3 feet high. It's got a life of its own. If it could talk, it would be a bestseller probably. But regardless of where we are, whether it's in Hollywood or a commercial shoot in New York or Toronto or Vancouver, people all react the same. They see this silver object sitting there and they kind of get attracted to it and that. And I think it's always a hit on there. It's always a hit on the set. And it's been in a lot of shows and that, and it looks great on there. And I think that's what makes it great. And it complements the TV show as well.
It certainly does. And I imagine as well, like it can be pretty emotional for some people when they see the Stanley Cup for the first time. What are some of the more emotional moments that you've witnessed with the Stanley Cup that have stood out to you?
Well, I mean, you said it there. People get very emotional. They're very powerful emotions too, whether it's tears of joy or happiness or they've made it or something, or players take it to a cemetery for a past one. Like those emotions are very, very powerful, but it's very important for these players or staff or whatever to do this because they understand the road to get to where they got to cannot be done by just them. Other people helped them along the way, and they want to thank them, whether they're still living or whether they've passed. So it's pretty powerful to see all these emotions. I think whatever emotion comes out of a person is natural on that. And hey, when you're with a 132-year-old greatest trophy in the world, every emotion is well worth it.
It certainly is. And as someone who cheers for the Golden Knights, I went down to Las Vegas for the parade after they won in 2023. What are some of the stories that you have from that Golden Knights team and the parties that summer?
Well, if you remember that parade, it was at night kind of because they wanted to keep the heat down a bit. And it was the first time that a parade had ever been at night with a Stanley Cup parade. But it was so cool and so Vegas, the light shows and all of that and the celebrations and that. I think what really struck me was, and I've been to Vegas a lot as a fan and that, and lately as working with them and that. But nobody's from Vegas. Everyone's from everywhere else. So you get hockey fans from all over the place that have come from whether Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago, moved to Vegas. But what the Vegas Golden Knights have done now is so amazing. They have true Vegas night fans there that are all in. I mean, every event that you go to, it's much more than a hockey game. It's an entertainment area where the rink is on the Strip. It's unbelievable. And what the management and everyone down from George and Katie all the way through the show and Kelly as a GM, I mean, they've done a great job with their organization. And it's for people that haven't had a chance to see a Vegas Golden Knights game, you got to go.
I certainly agree with that. And I was going to ask as well, with some of the celebrations and parties that have ensued with the Stanley Cup, have you had any close calls where the cup was almost lost?
You know what? I mean, all of us that have traveled in the airline world now understand what happens sometimes when you get connections. I think that's probably our closest time on losing it would be a connection if the connection is too tight in that. But like I said earlier, Clayton, when we go through airlines and airports, there's a lot of hockey fans there, so it always helps. And let's keep on hoping that there's more and more hockey fans all the time.
So last June, the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup for the first time. What was that experience like, and how different was it from the previous winners before?
Well, you know what's amazing? In the last 5 years, I think a team from Florida has won it 3 times, and they've been to the finals 4 times. So it really puts a feather in the hat of the state of Florida, how strong hockey is in the South. I mean, you look at Tampa, they've won it 3 times now in their history, but the amount of rinks that are in Tampa and area now are huge. And now you look in Broward County and Fort Lauderdale and that, and rinks are growing up all over the place. And there's no better marketing tool in the world than winning a championship. But the team the Panthers have that Mr. Viola and crew and Matt Caldwell and them have put together, they're so involved with the community. They've got the new practice facility there. They're building new rinks. And I think at the end of the day, that's what people want to see is they want to see it grow from minor hockey all the way up. And people are playing hockey all the time. To me, I think it'd be unbelievable to be able to go swim in the ocean in the morning and then go play hockey and then go out on the beach at night. Like what a life. But they've done a great job with the market.
Yeah, they certainly have. And is there a team in particular that you'd maybe like to see win the Stanley Cup, or a player?
You know what? As the playoffs go on, you kind of gravitate to one team or another team, and that for all the Canadian fans out there, it'd be great to see a Canadian team win in that, and they're getting closer each year in that now. But I always love when we get to the finals, the 2 teams are in there. They deserve to be there. It's unfortunate that one of them has to lose and one's a champion. But once you get to meet the team that wins, you realize why they won. I mean, they are a tight, bonded community, also known as the Stanley Cup champion. But that's what makes them the champion. And they always say in sport, you got to lose some to be able to win. And the Panthers did it. I mean, lots of teams have lost and then ultimately get back to win it.
So, going to wrap up here real shortly. I want to ask you one final question. If you could take the Stanley Cup anywhere in the world where it hasn't already been, where would you take it?
Wow. Well, we went to Australia in 2022 for the first time. That was the first time it's been in the Southern Hemisphere, which was pretty historic. To me, I said earlier, there's 95 countries in the world that are playing hockey now. I would love to be able to get that chance to take it to all of those countries, because obviously they have minor hockey kids playing. They have dreams of playing arguably in the greatest league in the world, the National Hockey League. To be able to make their day and maybe make it possible for one of those kids from one of those countries that we've never been to, I think it would be great. But I'd go to Fiji with it any day you want.
I certainly agree with that. And so thank you very much, Phil, for
No
your
problem,
time today.
Clayton.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. We really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who tuned in.
Yeah, thanks for everybody. Appreciate it. I'm glad we made it work out. And anytime, let's chat again over the summer. We'll have new stories.
Certainly will. Thank you very much.